Hey, good day, everybody. Welcome back to our Genesis class live from Jerusalem with Rabbi Chaim Goldberg of the Noahide World Center. Always an excellent class. Lately, he's been teaching us the ethics of the fathers. Interesting material. Everybody needs to work into their lifestyle for sure. So let's just tune right in and say hello. Shalom, Rabbi Goldberg. You're live on social media. I'm going to turn the class over to you, sir.
Good evening, everybody from Jerusalem. Hope everything is fine. Yes, we're learning a bit of how to, from the ethics of the fathers, I will say it. Again, I'm really sorry, but again, I have a short time tonight. By the way, I need to say in advance that next week we won't have a meeting since we have the Purim celebration and it's on Sunday. And those times and everything, most probably I will be drunk in this day at this time. No, I'm joking, but because we're still in the army and everything. But yes, next week we won't have. And I know, but we are intending of starting something very big. And I will tell you later on, Dan, I will explain to you what we're going to do. We're going to do something, a renewal of a lot of things. And so also with April, it's also good that you're taking a bit of a break. It's also good. And then we will start from the beginning with a lot of things. So let's try to learn at least, around 9 o'clock, I need to go to my other duty tonight again. So let's start. We have something to finalize from last time, and then we'll continue on. So I will share the screen. Let me share the screen and let's start diving inside to this. You see the screen, right? You can see the screen. Fair enough. So what we've learned last week, if you can read it again, okay, we have two rabbis, Yosef ben Yoezer, Ish Sodan, Yosef ben Yochanan, Ish Yerushalayim. Okay, one is living in Jerusalem, one is living in Sarida. Both of them is being called Yosei. It's a name
Yossi
of
ben
Yosef.
Yozer, yeah, and
like
of
Joseph.
Zareda.
Here, we learned last week this one. Please read it again. We're going to finalize something.
All right. Yossi ben Yozer, a man of Zareda, and Yossi ben Yohanan, a man of Jerusalem, received the oral tradition from them, from Shimon the righteous and Antigonus. Yossi ben Yozer used to say, "Let thy house be a house of meeting for the sages, and sit in the very dust of their feet, and drink in their words with thirst."
Now, we didn't explain this, the last idea, the last guidance that you say Ben Yoezer is giving us, drinking their words with thirst. We didn't explain it, and I want to explain it a bit. It's very important. We're going to see something to understand the concept. So before we're going to explain what is happening or what exactly is this idea that he's saying to us, let's think for a moment. When you're really thirsty and you need some water for your throat, okay, this is where you have in your mind, you are very focused. You need now you need water. You want to drink. You need it, and it's very with a lot of ambitions. This thirst that you're feeling, and the meaning of this is, if you think about this for a moment, it's some sort, I will say, of a renewal. Okay, when we are drinking water, we're having some sort of a renewal in our body. Okay, now I'm feeling less thirst, and I can, feel more comfortable. Think about this: when you're going to the desert and you don't have a lot of water, and then you're losing the water, and you're looking for water. This is where you're starting to, when you're drinking, feeling the renewal of things. Now, one of the most biggest problem that we have with the Torah is that people might think for themselves that this is something that you can learn, and when you know it, that's it. You don't need any more. I'm always comparing this to mathematics, for example, or physics, or whatever it is that we are learning. Everything that we are learning, after we have the knowledge that was in the book before, and now we have it in our mind, in our brain here, this is where we can take the book and burn it. We don't need it anymore because we have the ideas, we have it here. In the Torah, we might, in the wrong way, to think like that. And this is where he is giving us the right attitude. Always take the words of the sages, the words of those who are passing on the Torah, in a way of a thirst. And I want to show this, that it's coming also, it's written down in the Torah. Okay, so let me show also a few resources about this. The first one is in Deuteronomy chapter 26, in verse, always I'm confusing between this and here it is. In verse 16, please read verse 16, please.
Verse 16 of Deuteronomy 26, "This day the Lord your God is commanding you to fulfill these statutes and ordinances, and you will observe and fulfill them with all your heart and with all your soul."
Now, when I'm reading it, this day, Moses said it more than 4,000 years ago. How come he's saying this day? If I'm reading it, for me, it's today, right? Not yesterday. I'm reading it now. So on this day, I need to read it like that. Now, I'm not saying by my heart. Let's see it for a moment in Rashi, with Rashi. Okay, let's see. Here it is. Let's jump into verse 15. 16, sorry. Please read Rashi here. This day.
This day the Lord your God is commanding you. Every day you shall regard the commandments as if they are brand new, as though you are just today being commanded regarding them.
Every day, for me, it's a new one. People asking us from time to time, how come we are reading the Bible every year from the beginning to the end? Okay, and the reason is that every time that we are looking and we're learning again the Bible, always with the right approach, we are learning new things. Every day, it's like a new day. Every day we have a renewal of those things. And we need to look on the commandments like we got them today. By the way, and today we have a very big fight, a very big war about the Israel state and place. Okay, the place that we got, the promised place, that the land that we got from God. So if we will jump for one chapter onwards, we will see that before we will jump to Israel, okay. Before we will jump to Israel, we will see also here in verse number 9. Please read verse number 9.
Okay, verse number 9. Moses and the Levitic priests spoke to all Israel, saying, "Pay attention and listen, O Israel. This day you have become a people to the Lord your God."
So he said it then, but he's using a term that for me it's for now. Okay. Now look at Rashi here. He's bringing it also from here.
Rashi, "This day you have become a people to the Lord your God. Every single day it should seem to you as though you are today entering into a covenant with him."
Again,
very important.
The renewal of every day. Every morning I'm waking up, we need to renew ourselves. The same thing is happening with the land of Israel. Okay, yes, this is the chapter. This is in Exodus chapter 13. And we have here something very nice that is related also about the land of Israel on the same mindset. Okay. Where it is? Just a moment. Here it is. Please read verse number 11.
11, and it will come to pass when the Lord will bring you into the land of the Canaanites, as he swore to you and your forefathers, and he has given it to you.
To me. He gave it to my forefathers 4,000 years ago. Now let's read Rashi for a moment. And he given it to you.
And he has given it to you. It should seem to you as if he gave it to you today, and it should not seem as an inheritance from your forefathers.
We need to think, every generation, we need to understand that this is something that we need to, I will say, to feel good, to renew this relation between us and the land. Okay, this is one of the ways, or this is one of the reasons that we have now this fight, and we understand what we're doing here and what we have. But I'm jumping back. It is very important to realize what Yosef ben Yoezer taught us. He said to us, the Torah, you need to feel the thirsty of the words of the sages, like, and to renew yourself with this relation with the Torah. And this thirsty is also being mentioned in one of our prophets, and the prophet is Amos, right? Yes, Amos in chapter 8. And he says like that. Please read verse number 11 and 12.
All right, Amos chapter 8. Behold, the days are coming, says the Lord, and I will send famine into the land, not a famine for bread, nor a thirst for water, but to hear the word of the Lord. And they shall wander from sea to sea, and from the north to the east. They shall run to and fro to seek the word of the Lord, but they shall not find it. Wow.
Okay. So first of all, we're speaking about a famine and a thirst, right? But not a thirst for, no, it's not a thirst for water, but a thirst for what? For hearing the words of God, or to understand the relation with God, to knowledge God. Okay? And they will go, who is speaking today about from the sea to the sea, from the river to the river, right? What they're saying today. It's one of the sentences. They won't find it else, somewhere else. They'll find it only with the Hebrew people. So this thirst that Rabbi Yeshua, then Rabbi Yosef ben Yoezer Ish Seredah is speaking about, this is exactly also, we can see this in our days, of this thirst that people have to realize, to get connected with God in a renewal way. And each day, it's like a new day that we need to renew the connection with God. This is some sort of a thirst, not only for the physical side. Always I'm telling this, the world is with, more and more, when you're peeling it, you have more and more insights, I will say. And there is also a thirst on the same level that we have in the physical side. I have a thirst to drink. On the same level, we have also a thirst for the words of God. And you can find it in the Hebrew people. This is what the Maimonides also taught us, that we will find it in the Hebrew people. Okay, we'll find it for a moment. We said it more than once, but never mind, I will show this. At the end, on the end of the book of the Maimonides, he is bringing that no, not enough. Oh, it is. Give it a moment, it will rise up. Not chapter 11, chapter. Let's continue. Okay. We have here that at the end of the days, okay? Please read this point, and then we'll jump to the thirst that people have, please.
All right. Do not presume that in the Messianic age any facet of the world's nature will change, or there will be innovations in the work of creation. Rather, the world will continue according to its pattern.
Okay, and he's continuing on. And one of the things that he's teaching here at the end, um, oh, no, come on, just a moment. Okay, let's read this 5, the last one, please.
All right, part 5. In that era, there will be neither famine or war, envy or competition, for good will flow in abundance, and all the delights will be freely available as dust. The occupation of the entire world will be solely to know God. Therefore, the Jews will be great sages and know the hidden matters, grasping the knowledge of their Creator according to the full extent of human potential. As Isaiah 11:9 states, the world will be filled with the knowledge of God as the waters cover the ocean bed.
Okay, so this is the end, the end of this book. And this is what he's telling us, he's teaching us. There won't be any famine for food because the food will be for everywhere. Go today to the supermarket. In all of the modern world, you will find everything there. You will find everything there with so much, I will say, such a big, large amount that your eyes, this is one of the things that we don't understand. It's being, they're putting there so many things in such a large amount, you can't buy everything. You're just picking 1 or 2 or 3 things from everything there. So the famine is not for the water or for the bread, like we saw in Amos. The famine is for the knowledge of God. And this is what the Hebrew people are going to teach, the knowledge of God, like we're doing now. By the way, we're preparing all the, I will say, we are the one step ahead from everybody else. And what we're doing in the Noah Hard World Center, we're preparing it for the rest of the world, building up all the tools how to do this. Okay, so this is what he is teaching us here in Yosef ben Yoezer. Drink in the words with the thirst. Be thirsty for learning Torah. This is one thing that I wanted to mention from the last time. Now let's continue on. If Yosef ben Yoezer is speaking more about the sages and open your house for sages and bring more Torah to your place, now we have Yosef ben Yochanan that is teaching something else, and he's teaching. It's hard. Let's read it, please. Yosef ben Yochanan, and then I will say a few words, please.
All right, Yossi ben Yochanan, a man of Jerusalem, used to say, "Let thy house be wide open, and let the poor be members of thy household. Engage not in too much conversation with women." They said this with regard to one's own wife. How much more does the rule apply with regards to another man's wife? From here, the sages said, as long as a man engages in too much conversation with women, he causes evil to himself. He neglects the study of Torah, and in the end, he will inherit Gehenna.
Let's be clear, because I'm not going to go too much to this part, okay, about engage not too much conversation with the woman. This second part, I will say it like that. The main part, and we're going to see this in a moment, the main part is that he is teaching us to open the house for all of the people of the world, or to all of the people who have no food, who are poor people, those who don't have how to live, or whatever it is. And one of the problems that might happen, that if you're opening your house, there will be people, or there might be people that are going to bring it also to a place where the relation between men and female are not going to be in the moral stage. And this is why he is continuing on, okay? Or it's not really him that is continuing on and saying, look, but on the other side, be careful, because one of the most important things is to be in a moral situation. This is the last thing that I want to speak about, the second part of the Mishnah. We can dive inside, but it's really not the main point. The main point is that while the Yosef ben Yoezer spoke about the sages, Yosef ben Yochanan, the second one, okay, from Jerusalem, he can see the brotherhood mission, I will call it like that. He can see in each person in this world the image of God. Therefore, he's giving a lot of respect and opening the house. From where he have learned it? Who was his rabbi to teach him to open his house to poor members of their household, to everybody? From where he have learned it? So, from whom? Shimon HaTzadik, he spoke about something else a bit. He learned it also from Shimon HaTzadik about very nice. Okay, Shimon HaTzadik is speaking about to have a lot of act of kmilut chasadim. Okay, piety. Okay, this is how you say it. I think. So Shimon HaTzadik also taught us something like that. But there's a rabbi before him. We have two rabbis before. Okay, let's start with a very interesting book. And the name of this book is Job. You know Job? Job. Let's go for a moment to Job. And let's see in chapter 31. Let's jump for chapter 31. It is. One of the things that he is saying there, there's a lot of conversations between, he is basically, I will say, judging God, how God did to him this big, took from him all of his kids and all of his wealth and everything else, and even brought upon him a lot of problems. Oh, what happened? I lost you. Everything is fine. Can you hear me? But something here didn't. Yes, I see that. If not, we will work to different side. Let's try this. Let's go. Okay, go to Job, please. Go to Job. Yes. Well, I'm stopping the share. And go to Job, chapter 31. Good evening,
Good evening, gentlemen. Good afternoon, wherever you are.
For the Canadian people, it's morning. Chapter 31, verse number 32.
My microphone's. It says, a stranger, verse 32, a stranger did not lodge outside my doors, I would open to the road.
And please read Rashi there on this verse.
Show. To the road, the doors of my house were not inside and enclosed by a gatehouse outside, or surrounded by corners to stop the wayfarers from coming, but open to the crossroads, so that whoever wishes to come may do so.
So we have a very interesting, I will say, teacher, okay, for Yosef ben Yochanan, Ish Yerushalayim. We're saying that we need to open the doors for everyone, but not only him. Let's jump. Some sages are saying that it was in the same era. Let's go to Genesis chapter 18, please, Dan. While Job was waiting in his house that people will come inside, let's read for a moment the beginning in the two verses of chapter 18 in Genesis.
Genesis chapter 18. Now the Lord appeared to him in the plains of Mamre, and he was sitting at the entrance of the tent when the day was hot. And he lifted his eyes and saw, and behold, 3 men were standing beside him. And he saw, and he ran toward them from the entrance of the tent, and he prostrated himself to the ground.
So, and he's asking them to come inside to him. So while Job was waiting at his home, Abraham was seeking outside to bring those who are coming to visit him. Okay, and we said it more than once. The story that our sages is telling us that Abraham gave them food to everyone, and then he asked them, they wanted to pay to him, and he said to them, "No, you don't need to pay me, just bless God." And they said that they don't know God, so he said to them, "Okay, so give me a very large amount of money, very high, expensive rate of money." And then they said, okay, we'll pray to God. But basically what Abraham told them, that God is hosting all of us in his world. We said it more than once. We have enough food in this world that no one will die from hunger. And the only reason why people are dying from hunger, in Nigeria and other places, I'm speaking about millions of people every year, is because some of our, I will say, leaders of the countries are putting much more effort, much more effort for building up missiles and things like that, instead of spreading the world from one place to another, so no one will die from hunger. And this is very, those verses that you read now are very amazing if you think about this for a moment, because Abraham spoke with God. And suddenly when he saw 3 people, and if we will continue on, you will see that he thought that there are people who are worshipping idolatry. So they were not the most favorite people with him. I will say it like that. Even though he stopped, he said to God, "Please wait for a moment." And he went and he took them and he started to serve them. And our sages are saying in the Gemara, they're saying that it's bigger to bring people inside your home, even more than speaking with God. Abraham stopped speaking with God. Now, and the understanding of this is that Abraham sees, he can look inside and he sees in each person in this world the image of God. This is the way that we are being judged. And when God is looking at our behavior towards our friends, towards our families, I will give an example. Listen good, Bart. I will give an example. A few years ago, one of my friends, Arimas from Lithuania, he had some sort of a problem. I have another 2 minutes. Had some sort of a problem with a grave and a memorial that his family did to his parents, because they did with a lot of idolatry of the Christianity. And he was already, an Noahide. And he said to me, "What do I need to do?" More than that, he said that he's supposed to clean up the grave and all of those things, and also the cross there. And he said to me, "What can I do?" And I said to him, "Listen, if you know, okay, the intention here is very important. You're not doing this because of idolatry. You're doing this because you want to honor your family and you want to be connected with your family. And you're not doing any idolatry worship. So it's okay, because you're strengthening the connection between you and your family." And this is one of the things of the situations where the relation with your family, if you're not doing idolatry, by the way, it's the same thing with the wedding, with other things. One of the reasons why we are not urging people to convert is because of that. When you're converting, you're crossing the lines and you're getting separated from your family, from everybody else. You don't need to do that. Fair enough. You're not going to worship idolatry on one side. On the other side, you can do a lot of things just to honor your family and to be connected without doing any idolatry. And this is where the connection is becoming a right one and a full one. And this is what he's teaching us, to bring people to our home, to invite people, those who don't have, those who are poor, and all those things. Because we also see the relation that we have through this man, the relation that we have with him, we also have with the image inside him, with God. I need to go. I'm really sorry. I need to go. Next week, we won't go into each other. Please, I'm asking the public, okay, to look inside all the things that we're going to publish. I will speak with you, Dan. Later on this week, I will show you things, what we're going to do. We're going to do something really huge. I'm passing on to Rabbi Hershler and blessing all of you for a good week and
blessings, Rabbi. Do what you have to do. Thank you for taking the time to share with us from the Ethics of the Fathers. Beautiful material for sure. Well, we're glad to have Rabbi Hershler with us. Rabbi Hershler, is there anything?
Rabbi Hershler also, everything is open. Okay.
Yes, indeed. If I will carry on from the passage that we just spoke from Ethics of the Fathers, something quite fascinating about that, about how one opens the doors to everyone. It's not only a matter of being kind and receptive to guests. I think, Dan, that what is being highlighted here is the openness of one to hear the thoughts of other people as well. It's not only a matter how many people you invite, which of course is important in its own, to be kind and receptive, but it's also being willing to open and understand that other people that are created in the image of God may actually think different than me, but I still feel that I have to relate to them as well. And that's something which is very fundamental, that we have the openness and willing to try to understand. You don't have to agree with what our opponents think, but we have to understand where they're coming from. And if there happen to be some goals which they share, which are of importance, we should take that into account. Interestingly, the two rabbis quoted in that passage in the Ethics, one was Yosef ben Yoezer, who lived in a place called Tzreda, which was a small town in Samaria, and Yosef ben Yochanan was from Jerusalem, which was a metropolitan. One of the differences, between one who lives in a suburb of a city compared to living in the city itself. Usually the suburbs, which let's say are 10 or more miles away from the main town center, they are much less populated. There's a lot more space there. And it's quite natural for the place to be open to others. That's the nature of the residents over there. On the other hand, one who lives in a big city like New York, Toronto, LA, Paris, London, etc., there you lock the doors normally at night because since there's a whole bunch of people, including homelesses, who live in these areas, it's not very safe to keep the doors open. At the same token, in the big cities, there is always a major variety of thoughts, peoples, and backgrounds, and to have enough tolerance to actually accommodate the various traditions that are found in the city is something which is a bigger challenge by definition. And that's something which I think is being mentioned here by telling us not only who the two scholars are, but mentioning where they live. As the one who lives in Tzreda lives in a suburb area, there's a lot of accommodation there. It's much easier to accommodate all types of people in a very open and a non-populated area. But Yosef ben Yochanan, who lives in Jerusalem, which is a real metropolitan, I'm not saying as crowded as India, but it's certainly crowded enough to accommodate all different walks of life, which all meet together in a big town, relatively speaking. Amongst the customs that are forthcoming in the Purim festival, which is celebrated next week and on Sunday in certain places, like in Jerusalem on Monday as well, one of the fundamental concepts of that festival is gifts of the poor and handing over food portions even to those who are not needy, with the idea that by giving meals over to others, not trick and treat of Halloween, real meal, you are like participating in your friend's meal and being receptive of that person. You want all people from all walks of life to celebrate, and you want to be part of a widespread community of all those people who share together their interest of being sharing in the friendship of other people. Interestingly enough, in that same chapter that the rabbi quoted from Genesis 18, Dan, you have later on in the same chapter when Abraham gets into a discussion with God about the fate of Sodom. Sodom, God says, is a very evil place, and I'm about to destroy it. And yet Avram goes out of his way to try to appeal to God's generosity and kindness and merciful traits to sort of release their decree. Perhaps only people who are receptive enough to expect to invite other people into their homes and to make them feel friendly in your environment are those who can also know how to fight for the well-being of each and every other person. And I assure you that Abraham did not consider Sodom to be a place as a model of where to live. There's no contradiction between the fact that he's willing to pray for the well-being of those people, and yet at the same time, not to feel that they actually the model that he's really interested in. I think that's one of the things which is very unique about the Jewish religion compared to the religions aside. Muslim have a tendency, if you don't agree with them on something, they have a tendency to decide to kill you and to use the idea of a holy war or a jihad in their language. Christianity may not kill you if you don't join Christianity, but their missionary activity is to try to persuade people who are not interested at the moment, if at all, to join their religion, and they're trying in a, so to speak, cultural but very, how would I put it, using a lot of demagoguery to get people to try to join their approach and to persuade them to choose the Christian religion. By us, not only do we not use any violence, God forbid, to make people Jewish, we don't even try to convince them verbally or through missionaries to join us either. First of all, in principle, we are not interested to convert people who are not authentically interested themselves from their own cause to go and do so. And secondly, like this wonderful project that we're within, there are tasks which the Noachites have, and they're not expected to go for all 613. So we don't have any agenda to change their approach in that respect. We do have an objection to the way Christianity and Islam basically abolish the normal humane attitude towards religion. These two groups, which comprise 4 billion of the people of the world today, illustrate to us that evil, even in the name of religion, or maybe particularly, it depends how you look at it, is not an exception. It's a pretty widespread situation. We don't believe in Judaism in a aristocratic type of leadership on a religious basis. When the Jews built a sanctuary, all the public sacrifices had to be donated by every single person above the age of 20, some say even from the age of 13 it started. Nothing to do with their financial capacity. A multi-trillionaire could not donate for others, and one who barely has enough to survive for a week from his monetary perspective is not exempt from helping. Everybody has to be part of it, and the idea is that we are all sharing a mutual purpose and responsibility together. In the story of the Megillah of Esther, or the scroll about the book of Esther, Haman actually is trying to say that the Jews are different than all religions and they're scattered amongst themselves, and they don't live necessarily in peace and harmony between them. And therefore, in my opinion, he says there's no point to keeping them around. That, of course, his evil thoughts of exterminating us are atrocious. But what he said about his analysis about us, unfortunately, is not so far from true. We do have a tendency to have a less tolerance towards people that think other than us. And I certainly belong to the other side of the flag in saying that we should all try and particularly make an effort to try to understand those that we don't agree with and to be able to make a decision which is based on a real freedom of choice and a counterbalance that they have between the two tendencies. I would like to leave the floor open for your comments, and then if so, I may add a few things later, but this is my opening thing I'd like to say, and if you want to add and comment, I'll be happy to respond.
Thank you, Rabbi Hirschler. I really appreciate the fact that you pointed out the difference between a rural and a urban setting, especially, I don't know where everybody's from, but we've all seen a rise in homelessness, and there seems to be difficulty in dealing with such, yet, the message here is to keep your doors open and be kind. And I find, as somebody who's dealt a lot with homeless people or people on the streets in the urban setting, it's difficult, but it's not impossible if one keeps in mind that there is what is known as a social contract, and underlying anything implicit in a social contract is an attitude of cooperation. And when you're dealing with a lot of street people, often they are just uncooperative, or they may seem hostile or scary, but you can overcome that by clarifying with them that social contracts are all based on cooperation, anything implicit, because a lot of street people seem to take everything for granted, and they will take advantage of your kindness and abuse it, and you need to be able to stand your ground. And one of the best ways to stand the ground is to understand that an attitude of cooperation has to be underlies every social contract, and if they're uncooperative, they're breaching a social contract, and then you have the right to clarify the point. And one of the greatest things I think Judaism teaches is about that bottom line common ground theme to overcome any difficult or differences of opinion. And so coming to understand that there can be common denominators and common ground if you're open to look for it, and understand that you can't just condemn and judge people at heart. That's not good for you, and it's not good for them. But being Jewish people are people of great unity, and I hope the world catches that theme of looking for common denominator in any say stressful situation, but you can overcome it, understanding that social contracts are all underwritten by a spirit of cooperation. And if you're opening your homes to people in legitimate loving kindness, they need to be present with a spirit of cooperation, and you need to be clear and upfront about that, and that will ease a lot. I think Hashem comes to the aid when that spirit of cooperation is being fought for. It allows the open door policy to remain open, whereas the spirit of fear and antagonism, especially coming from those that might seem to be taking things for granted, can cause people to clam up. I mean, we as human beings, we have that fight or flight mechanism that just wants to shut off the outside world. Anything you could add to that kind of comment, Rabbi?
Yes, I think it's actually it's sad that that's the given reality, that people try to silence others, something which is totally in contrast to our thinking process. Moses doesn't even go to take the Jews out of Egypt until he consults with his father-in-law, who was not born a Jew, and it's not even clear how far he converted. And the rabbis ask an interesting question over there. What would have happened if Jethro would have said, no, you're not going? So one of the great scholars in the previous generation said, don't worry, God would have sent the Jews out of Egypt anyhow, but he would not appoint for the mission somebody that would do so by insulting his father-in-law. That's something which we don't tolerate. Meaning, even for the well-being of us as a community, we're not willing to compromise that fact that we need to be tolerant and understanding of the stranger. Particularly Truth converts also made an effort to be involved and weren't born into the system. And Maimonides says that these people should be loved like God himself, because a person who decides to convert and wasn't born within the system and becomes part of it, he is coming closer to Hashem than anybody. I was born into it, but when you find people that made the effort and choice on their own, it's all the more impressive by far, if I were to mention so. Indeed, in the times, in biblical times and a little bit later, where the Jews did have political independence in their own country, it was more common to find that Gentiles who were living here would be involved more deeply in the culture that they experience. What I do find, though, interesting, is that thanks to the tragedy that the Jews, if you want to put it that way, not that it was done, but the tragedy that they were bound to encounter in the story of Esther, everybody unified in fasting together for the well-being of us in the future. The Israeli government decided today to make a national day of remembrance for the October 7th tragedy every year, 2 days after the Sukkot festival, to commemorate what had happened. I think it's very important for the understanding of the people to realize that there's certain things that if you don't put them in on a permanent level as part of what a person needs to understand in encountering evil, it's something that we have a tendency to forget. And the Bible makes it very clear that you're not allowed to forget evil, not because you're a person who has a bad memory. That people that have a certain age memory problems, that's a problem to deal with doctors, etc. We're talking about awareness, to draw awareness that people should not suffer from others. That's something that we have to put into our hearts. So the positive interaction, as we spoke about, leaving the doors open and accommodating for other people, that's essentially what is behind the system. In fact, in the Purim festival, where there is a custom of people bringing food and drinks to their friends, it's often given to people that are not necessarily what you'd call in America your closest buddies. But when you go ahead and bring them something and you send it to them, you are actually contributing to internal friendship. Sometimes it's a good idea to take the lead and initiative to try to be friendly with others and to open the door. I don't know if, Dan, that could be done every day, especially in a big city. But on the other hand, to be able to have the joy of listening to other people who think different than you and to appreciate them, and they see how much you care for them, it makes a difference. I have a custom with my wife, bless us, to send our gifts off on Purim, first of all, to those who are less observant and are neighbors of ours. And I want them to feel that we think of them as well. They don't have to necessarily share the same opinion with us, and to the contrary. Despite and maybe because they think otherwise, they have to be in our thoughts of how to be friendly towards them as well. Other of you want to say things? You're more than welcome, please.
Welcome, Angelica. Bart, you got any comments you want to add? Angelica's
about the homeless. Sure.
Well,
We did this for about 12 years. I just kind of came in late. We had a hockey game. So,
I hope you won.
uh, nah, not this time. Can't always win.
Okay.
But we had, yeah, my granddaughter was playing. Anyways, with the homeless, we did this like for 12 years. And it's amazing. There are people out there who don't know where to go, don't know where to start. They have no mentor. And that's the problem here in Canada. There are no mentors per se. When you're looking for somebody else to help along, no, we don't do that. Oh, okay, well, this is what we do. And you help one at a time. Um, I can't remember how many there are out there that we did help, and they are still okay. They're still good. They know now that I'm a Noahide, so there's a little difference there. But at the same time, there is so much, like here, you can do so much, a lot. Nobody has the excuse to say, no, we can't, we don't know, or, well, just go out on the streets, you'll find out real quick.
yeah, don't refrain from being kind because you're
Right.
afraid. That's just not a
Right.
yeah, yeah. And you're a great example, Ange, of being kind and open, and it's encouraging for sure. And the world would do better to have more people doing the same for sure. But it's not to everybody's taste. Some people just, they're too skittish to enter into even dialogue. So many people are afraid of any confrontation whatsoever. I mean, we had an incident here in my town the other day where a bylaw officer got slashed, and next thing you know, there's 12 RCMP down there with automatic weapons and police dogs to capture the fellow that did the slashing of the bylaw. But the point being, kindness can break the ice and change the direction for somebody's life, and it begins with you shedding the ice off your own hearts. And it's not an easy task, but it is a rewarding way of living when you're somebody who's generous. And I love how Rabbi Goldberg brought out the example back to Abraham and the three visitors. I mean, that's the foundation of coming to connection with people in this world. And if you're unwilling, yet I've seen it go so far myself. When I worked at a shelter for 5 years, and I lived in the downtown core of my hometown in a big city. And the point being, when people started to know where I lived, I was emptying my freezer and fridge and, trying to feed people. And the point being, it got so demanding that I actually could not any longer go in the downtown core. Couldn't walk 10 feet without somebody, expecting something. And, it's nice to be nice, but you've got to understand your limits and still live. And you don't want to encourage people to be brazen dogs, always saying give, give, give. You want to teach somebody how to fish rather than give them a fish. And it takes a special transformed life to be able to teach somebody how to fish, rather than just give them a fish. Because if you give them a fish, you feed them once. If you teach them to fish, you can feed them for a lifetime. The point being that we all have skills, and this is why we all are leaning on the Jewish people as a kingdom of priests to understand how to make our way in this world, and more than just make our way, prosper. And yeah, prosperity isn't intended to heap. It's intended, Hashem grants blessings, bounty from above, for the purpose of his kindness being shown to a greater degree. And it's a very, very wonderful life if you become a kind-hearted person, but it's also very challenging, and you'll find your own spiritual growth develop in the process for sure. Bart, have you got anything you want to add, or Rabbi Hirschler, anything you want to comment on further?
And just one thing, in as much as we really have to be very kind with others, my wife, for example, teaches autistic children. which is not very easy, to put it lightly, especially when they get in stages of fear, like in times of war at the moment, when sometimes their father is away. They're emotional in the first place, and now in times where very often the couple are not together, it's a very challenging procedure. At the same time, we also, when we are merciful towards others, we don't have to be, though, tolerant towards evil. We should be always being generous towards the average person, and certainly the generous and positive. But people are evil, and there are, unfortunately. It's a very clear issue that we have to sometimes be less tolerant in order to educate other people to be kind. Part of it is also to combat against those who actually act in evil. We have no choice but to handle that. We have always had an approach of that nature, that we don't give the other cheek when somebody hits us. We actually fight back and want to make sure that this type of approach does not repeat itself. I feel I'm extremely disturbed by the feminist organizations who have no sympathy for so many women who were attacked on October 7th only because they were Jewish. I mean, the sexual abuse that was there is hard to determine, and to even use terms, almost never things like that have occurred. And there were even women in heads of universities in America who denied the actual situation. It's mind-boggling. How far evil can you get?
It shows their agenda, doesn't it?
I really, believe me, if this would happen between Muslims, I would feel bad for the women there also. Not because they happen to be my religion. If anybody were to rape other people in such evil ways, and you don't have sensitivity towards it, like in cases that were in India at the time, whatever, how can anybody tolerate this? This is something which is, I can't go for. It's total double standards. Total.
Right. Well, that's where the Sheva Mitzvot, the Noahide laws, actually bring that balance away from extremism and going too far liberal on the other side, and perfect balance, understanding those the 7 Noahide laws actually impart a balance into society, and allow the fertile ground for true deeds of kindness to be shown, and those that are aggressive need to be stood up against, because they promote the other side of the coin, in the sense, and leave a wake or a bad atmosphere. And you've got to be smart and kind and generous at the same time. It's not an easy task, and it's not. But there's always opportunities if one looks to do good in this world and make the world a better place. And I always encourage people for that. Always a joy. And yeah, Bart, you're pretty quiet today. We just had Kelly join us as well.
I'm listening. I've been here for the whole thing. Yeah, I just wanted to say we were talking about kindness and stuff, and with everything going on in the world right now, it's horrendous. So much hate and violence and things. But anyways, I just wanted to say I've been working on these greeting cards. And I don't know if you can see this one. I came up with, I'm trying to find ideas for the page I have, Kelly's Creations for Israel and the Nations, is like a fundraiser for the Noahide World Center in Israel, and also for any other Jewish organizations in Israel through jgive.com. So anyways, I came up with this idea for people just can think about.
Yeah, but we also have to be on guard against people that will exploit every opportunity for shameless plugs as well. yeah, I don't like to be policing things, and but it has to happen once in a while. And all I can say is kindness. There are those out there that have learned how to exploit kindness and take things for granted and take advantage of other people. So we have to be on guard and sharp. And this is, I think, I like how Rabbi Hirschler made the statement about they don't turn the other cheek; they'll stand up to guff. And balancing it is not an easy task, because often when kindness is expected, it's abused. And yeah, the point being, to do what's truly kind, it has to stay the act of the giver. It can't be something that somebody else can take for granted, or it's no longer kindness. It becomes commodity at that point. And but
We shouldn't let that stop us from being kind.
but no, but it's good.
I think it's really good. Off to you, Kelly, for all what
I'm
you
not-
do. Absolutely. Because this is Kelowna. We're talking Kelowna here. And things are happening here. Things are totally happening here.
If you want,
Yeah.
if you want to, encourage messages of kindness, that's fine.
But there is the other side too. I do understand.
Sure, but if you're trying to generate sales, that's a whole different ball game. But
Oh, no. I have absolutely no
There's no sales. This all goes to
sales.
Noah Hyde World Center. That's not
Yeah.
no.
100% of all the proceeds.
Well,
Um,
okay. On that note, I'm gonna wind it down for today. Rabbi Herschel, you got any final words?
Yeah, I want just to praise Kelly for her efforts and Angelica for her comments. And Bart, you always are thinking well, and I always learn a lot from your comments. I want to wish you all a wonderful week at this stage.
Thank you.
My
You too.
great pleasure.
And thank you so much for your support, Angela.
Yeah,
God bless.
next week we will not be having a Genesis class because of the Jewish festival of Purim, and I will be taking off the month of April for broadcasting, so I will not be. I'm not going to be broadcasting at all in the month of April. I'm taking a trip back east, and yeah, I've been going for more than 6.5 years and more than 1,700 straight broadcasts. It's week in, week out, and nonstop, and I need the rest. So I need to recharge and refocus, and hopefully come back stronger and eager. And I'm glad to hear Rabbi Goldberg's got some plans. I look forward to hearing what he's got to share, and maybe some new exciting material. It's always a joy to hear the light of Torah, especially coming out of Jerusalem, out of the nation of Israel, hearing Torah as it's intended to be shared with the world. And we enjoy it, love it, and look forward to more. Yeah, so on that note, I will be back in less than an hour with Rabbi Carmi Ingber with the Nativ group down in Houston, Texas. We haven't broadcast them in several weeks, and so I'm looking forward to that, and that'll be live within about an hour from now, 55 minutes from now. So on that note, look for Genesis class in early May after the Passover festival, Pesach festival. So yeah, so enjoy your month of April. I'm going to relax and enjoy it myself. And blessings to you, Rabbi, and stay safe. We look forward to chatting with you again soon. Till next time, have a wonderful, wonderful day, everybody. Bye for now.